No, not tonight. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can squeeze one in. We can throw one on the agenda for you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call the Morgan Hill City Council meeting of Wednesday, June 19th, 2024 to order. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Turner.
Here.
Council members Spring.
Here.
Levers. Here. Borgioli.
Here.
Martinez Beltran.
The posting of the agenda.
Tonight's meeting agenda was duly noticed and posted in accordance with Government Code 54954.2.
Very good. Would you please join me in standing for an silent invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. Let's pray. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. A proclamation tonight and a couple of recognitions. So I'm going to come down and grab the mic. Thank you. We're going to do the proclamation first, and we're going to ask Chris Gioni to come forward for this proclamation. Let's hear it for Chris Gioni. Yeah, hardworking guy. The month of July 2024 is Parks and Recreation Month. Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout the country, including Morgan Hill. Parks promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks and recreation facilities and people who use those facilities. Parks and recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. So, Chris, whoops, there you go. Just say a few words.
I'd just like to say we have the City of Morgan Hill Parks and Recreation has a bunch of activities planned for the month of July. And I've put some of the flyers that have those activities on our table over there.
Thank you, Chris. We'd expect nothing less from a Parks and Recreation guy. Yeah. And now we would like to recognize a couple of our commissioners, the Morgan Hill City Council, and I just want to recognize them in the fact that those commissioners really are the unsung heroes of our city. There's a lot of time and commitment and dedication that goes into those who serve on those commissions, doing the work that comes before the council oftentimes. And so grateful for that commitment, that sacrifice, and the dedication that so many of you make in serving on our city's commissions. And so we have a few of these commissioners who are either terming out or have just said they have had enough. And so we want to recognize them, and we have a little gift for two of the commissioners that are here. The Morgan Hill City Council recognizes Carrie Kira for her time serving as a commissioner on the Library, Culture, and Arts Commission from May 2017 through April 24. Coming up and get your, yep. Yeah, you want to say a few words? She does not. Suman would like to say a few words, and we're going to emphasize few. No. Since you're not prepared, I'm going to move on to the next one. Before you get your words out, come on up. You can say a few words, of course. Of course I am.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. I wanted to be present today to publicly extend a heartfelt thank you to our fabulous, wonderful, amazing Library, Culture, and Arts Commissioner, Katie Kara, for her incredible 7 years of service to our city. I know I will not be able to do justice to it. Last time Mayor said I shouldn't talk too much. I must listen to him. I'll try my best to express what an impact she's had these past years. 3 minutes is definitely not enough time, and I believe you have to do it shorter. So, Katie, your dedication, deep vision, and understanding of what public art truly means peppered everything you said and did. Your practical and professional expertise and help to the public and fellow commissioners like me truly made a difference. You were always a joy to work with. Your help always came from a place of service and empathy. And of course, I consider you a very good friend too. In my personal case, all the help you gave me and my leadership, Morgan Hill class of 2018, best class ever, utility box art project will never be forgotten. We could not have been as successful as we were without your sharing of the white paper from where we took off. Thank you on behalf of our entire class. Your ability to bring people together and create meaningful experiences has truly enriched our community in countless ways. Your work and effort have always been inspiring, and I know that both of us love books, and I think you might love books a little more than I do too. So thank you for inspiration. We will obviously miss you and your innovative ideas, unwavering commitment to making our city a better place. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your talents and passion. And although we are sad to see you go, we are very excited for your next step. And I know you're going to continue to spread joy and creativity everywhere you go. So thank you from all of us from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much, Katie. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Nicely done. Whoop, got it. Very good. And the city of Morgan Hill would like to recognize David Lovato and Richard Scott, although Richard Scott is not here, but for their time serving as commissioners on the Parks and Recreation Commission. David served from July 2020 through April 2024, and Richard served February 2016 through April 2024. So, David, like to say a few words?
No.
Yeah, well, that was just one word right there. No. Here is your gift. Thank you so much for your commitment and dedication to our community. Okay, we're now doing city council reports, and Councilmember Borgioli, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I received many communications from members in my district about the Little Locust Creek trail not being completed. And with the help of my good friend Christione, we figured out a lot of details that I gave to these individuals. And so I'd like to share some of those with you. One is, and I'm on that committee, the Little Locust Creek flood control. And there's in segment 4, which is kind of in the middle of the trail, there's a property owner, and I think it's called the Atherton Development. The HOA is not given permission for the section near the trail to complete a certain bridge. So it's unfortunate, but the commitment that Chris is making to reach out to them and work with them, and hopefully we'll reach an agreement. Also, the residents on Easy Street also have a similar concern. So Chris Gioni, our fabulous Chris Gioni, is working with all these individuals and groups to try and figure out a way on how we can make that trail open and accessible. And so for future planning, the northern end of the trail, the connection from Cholino to Spring is planned. And the southern trail, the Silvera Lake to Santa Teresa is planned. This Friday, I also going to have a meeting with Little Locust Creek, but a lot of the emphasis on this Friday's meeting is with Anderson Dam. So that's going to be really interesting because I think we really need an update on that. And I believe I sat in for the mayor at the Library Commission, and such an interesting commission that is. I really enjoy it. Every time I go there, they are just so welcoming. So thank you for not attending so I can attend. And one interesting thing that they're doing is they're developing a handling system, automated handling system for the books and the return of the books. So I found that to be a fascinating project that had to be approved that day, and it was approved. So it might make things easier in the library system. So that's the end of my reports, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Borgioli. City Manager's report, Christina?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the community, and my teammates that are here. Just a couple items for you today. I wanted to just recognize that today is Juneteenth, and it celebrates the end of slavery in the United States. It's also known as Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, and Juneteenth Independence Day, as well as Black Independence Day, and by statute, Juneteenth National Independence Day. On June 19th of 1865, Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of the Civil War and the end of slavery. And although the Emancipation Proclamation came 2.5 years earlier, many enslavers continued to hold enslaved Black people captive after the announcement. And so Juneteenth became a symbolic date representing African American freedom. The second announcement for you this evening is related to the torch run. So for many years, our police department has been taking the lead in the torch run. And so it's called the Law Enforcement Torch Run. And so basically what it is it's an escort for the Special Olympics torch, or the Flame of Hope, as it passes through Morgan Hill. And so our police team, along with other teammates, are going to be participating on the way to opening ceremonies, which are held at Santa Clara University. Go Broncos! The community is invited to cheer them on as they pass through town on Monterey from Vineyard Boulevard to Cochrane Road. So once again, next Thursday, June 27th, you'll see them between 11 and 12. And with that, I conclude my report.
Very good. Thank you. Now for the City Attorney's report with the Assistant City Attorney, Cynthia.
Thank you. I have no report tonight.
No report. Very good. Thank you so much. Are there any other reports that anyone would like to make? Councilmember Martinez Beltran?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to share that I attended a Sister Cities olive oil tasting, and that was really fantastic. I didn't even know we had an olive grove in Morgan Hill, but we do. So I would encourage everybody to do that. I also wanted to talk about, we had an event at Cisco on the Tax Deception Act and on the ABAG bond. That was great. We had a fundraiser for the League of Cities, and that was at Topgolf. That was wonderful. I also wanted to make sure that I shared, I had heard that there's a mandate to clean some of the waterways. There's about 1,000 unhoused residents. We're trying to find a place where we can house everybody. There's a long list that has been made. One of the sites that's in Morgan Hill was looked at. Luckily, due to my relationship with the Latino Caucus, I've been put in touch with some of these prior when I first joined, and with Raul Perales, who was on City Council of San Jose, and I was able to work with the San Jose City Council and some others there who are just really up with a hard task. But this is really looking at the Coyote area and really looking at preserving that area. And so, well, I think that this is work that we all have to share in, and we eventually, I'm sure, are going to be sharing in. We were able to continue to protect that area, and I think that was a really great thing for us. So that's all I'll share.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you for that. I know that you even attended the San Jose City Council meeting, speaking on behalf of Morgan Hill, and took quite the lead. So thank you for that. I had a conversation with Mayor Mahan that morning and a few others as well, but you were out on front of that. So thank you for your representation on that. I also want to mention I got a letter from Zoe Lofgren, not just a letter, but also received an American flag that flew over the U.S. Capitol. This letter was from Congresswoman Lofgren. She said this: "Dear Mayor Turner, on this Flag Day, I wanted to present the City of Morgan Hill with an American flag flown over the U.S. Capitol in honor of and for the Morgan Hill Veterans Memorial. This memorial importantly reminds us of all the brave men and women who fought to protect our country and our freedoms. I was saddened to hear about the memorial that was recently vandalized, and I hope this flag, straight from our nation's capital, will serve as a source of pride for the Morgan Hill community." So we got a certificate and a flag, and so it was really a nice gesture on her part, and I was able to reach out to her and thank her for thinking of us. So that is it for me. I'm sorry, anybody else? There was no other reports? Okay, very good. Public comment. This opportunity for public comment is for items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to make comments on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until we get to the item to offer your comments. Members of the public are entitled to address the city council concerning any item within the Morgan Hill City Council's subject matter jurisdiction. Any comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes. Except for certain specific exceptions, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. Starting last meeting and moving forward, public comment on Zoom will be allowed for items on the agenda. That means items that have an item number and are in one of the 4 categories of consent calendar, other business, public hearings, or closed session. Members of the community wishing to participate in the meeting remotely must register in advance. The link to register is on the city council agenda. After registering, the registrant will receive a confirmation email containing information about joining the meeting. For anyone wanting to offer public comment for items on the agenda, we'll take public comment for those attending in person first with submission of a speaker card to the clerk. Once that is complete, we will move to those on Zoom that have their hands raised. Following public comment from Zoom, we will close the public comment period for that item. And so with that, Michelle, do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir, we have a few. Our first speaker is Rigo Gallardo, and you can go right over to that lectern.
Good evening, Mayor Turner, members of the City Council, and fellow residents of Morgan Hill. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Rigo Gallardo. I am a field rep for the NorCal Carpenters Union. I come before you to address a critical issue that deeply impacts our community, the state of development in Morgan Hill. While we recognize the need of sustainable growth to support our workforce and meeting housing demands, we are overlooking a crucial component to the very men and women that build these homes. This community is turning a blind eye to the struggles here in Morgan Hill. There is no solid foundation for development standards, creating a situation similar to the Wild Wild West in terms of construction and development practices. Our local construction workers, who are the backbone of our community's growth, are facing inequitable conditions. Many of them earn low wages and lack essential benefits like healthcare. This situation is not only unfair, but also unsustainable for the community that prides itself on inclusivity and growth. We need leadership to step up and address these inequities. It's time to establish robust development standards that ensure fair wages, healthcare, and other essential benefits for construction workers. This is not merely a matter of economic policy, but a question of moral responsibility. One concrete step we can take is to require contractors and developers to hire accredited apprenticeship programs, such as the one that's right down the street here in Morgan Hill. These programs not only provide high quality training, but also ensure that workers are fairly compensated and have access to benefits. By doing this, we can support our local workforce, keep skilled workers within our community, and create a more equitable environment for all. And just because a development is privately funded does not justify exploiting workers with low wages and inadequate benefits. All workers deserve better and better compensation no matter what. The majority of the residential projects in the Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill included, are crime scenes. Throughout the South Bay, with workers scared to come forward because of fear of legal status or retaliation. In conclusion, we need to have a broader and more inclusive conversation about development here in Morgan Hill. We must address the systemic issues facing our construction workers and implement standards that ensure fair treatment and opportunities for all. Mayor Turner, City Council, members, I urge you to take the lead on this issue. Let's create a community where everyone is included, those who build our homes and can live and work with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Rigo.
Our next speaker is Eli Robles.
Good evening, City Council, community members. My name is Eli Robles, and I am a 24-year union carpenter and a Morgan Hill resident since 2010. So just kind of to back off of what Rigo said, in my career, I've had to travel as far as Mountain View, Palo Alto, even as far as Novato and Berkeley. There's really not a lack of work here. There's plenty of tilt-ups, tenant improvements, ground-up projects, residential housing, and commercial projects. My son had just graduated from Sobrado last year, and he decided to become a carpenter. I couldn't be happier. He wants to follow in his father's footsteps, but unfortunately, I can't send him out in the neighborhood and look for a job, knowing that a lot of these jobs are not safe. They're cheating their workers. So like I said, they don't offer livable wages. They fail to meet area standard wages, no apprenticeship standards, so it means no training for the future. And a lot of times they're not responsible contractors, undercutting wages and not paying overtime properly. So anyways, we're just here to extend a helping hand and open up the conversation. We have offered up for you guys to tour our training site. It's a brand new facility, state of the art. They have a welding shop, and like I said, we'd like to invite you guys down, come and see what we're doing out there, and hopefully turn things around in the city of Morgan Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli.
Our next speaker is Maddie Scariot. Hi, I'm Maddie Scariot. I am the director of the Poppy Jasper International Film Festival. And this year, Poppy Jasper wanted to do something special for the venues that have been giving back to us for so many years. And so we have an award for the Morgan Hill Community Playhouse. For the past 6 years, we've been using it for our screenings and our panel discussions. And we probably have screened for the past 6 years, probably over 600 films, short and feature there. We've also had 6 panel discussions that focus on women in the film industry, bridging the gap, and empowering women to get the larger roles in the film industry. And it's been such an incredible place for us. I love watching our filmmakers come in and their eyes light up and they get excited that their film is playing there. So this is just a big thank you from us to you for helping us make the festival happen. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sharon Luna.
Good evening, supervisors. My name is Sharon Luna, and I live in San Martin. And I'm also a resident member of the San Martin Neighborhood Association, SMNA. Tonight, I am here to give you some experiences that we have been facing in San Martin with mental health residential facilities. With Proposition 1 and all the other things that are coming through, which is much needed for mental health issues, there is the concern of communicating with the county, with cities and state. We have 5 mental health residential facilities within a 1 mile radius. We also have in this 1 mile 6 registered sex offenders. We have had problems with patients jumping over the fences into other people's properties, burglaries, and a host of other things that you couldn't even imagine. Imagine a patient running down Foothill Avenue, stark naked, screaming at the top of their lungs. We have reported to code enforcement. We have addressed with Senator Laird. We have addressed with Supervisor Arenas and the Board of Supervisors. And I'm here because I value the relationship that San Martin has with Morgan Hill. And I was listening to a meeting a couple of months ago where it was just kind of brushed off. Oh, the state handles mental health residential facilities because there's the California Care Act with 6 and below, and then the expanded act of 6 and above. You have to be careful. You have to make sure that everybody is communicating with one another. We're trying to get that with our supervisors because just last Sunday, another incident happened, and this is on Marie Court. And I advise you to really look into establishing these homes if you should move forward or have to move forward, that they're not put in cul-de-sacs. This patient was arrested. We had 5 sheriff cars there. We had the fire department. It was just awful for this once peaceful and serene neighborhood. If we're being affected, and the sheriffs told us, we know of 5, but there are more out there. So I'm asking you to move forward, take your time. You have an excellent planning department, an excellent leader in planning, and you're all concerned about your community. We're concerned about ours. And I wanted to relay this information so you can move forward.
Oh, your time is up. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I have no more speaker cards for public comment.
Okay, we'll close the public comment and move on to the adoption of the agenda. I can get a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
I've got a motion by Borgioli, second by Spring. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There being none, that passes 5-0. Now for the consent calendar, if a member of the public or council members wishing to, if there anybody wishing to pull an item, please let me know. Do you have any? Okay.
Item 2.
I think item 2 may just be a, who is that? Is that
Brian Sullivan?
Brian? Is that, I think, going to be a comment or go ahead, Brian. Just let me know, is that going to be a comment or are you wishing to pull the item? Okay, very good. We'll come back to that. Any other items to be pulled?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Then we'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Motion to approve by Councilmember Borgioli, seconded by Councilmember Spring. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There being none. Very good. Okay, Brian, we'll have you come up and make your comment regarding item 2.
Good evening. Thank you, one and all. Item 2 is adopt an amendment resolution placing a measure on the ballot to enact a 12-year consecutive year limit of combined mayoral, city council, and treasurer service. And the recommendation as read is adopt an amended resolution placing a measure on the ballot to enact a 12 consecutive year limit on combined mayoral, city council, and treasurer service. I would suggest that we look at changing the word consecutive. What does consecutive mean? The Cambridge Dictionary says consecutive events, numbers, etc., following one after another without interruption. The Webster Dictionary says consecutive refers to things that are arranged or happen in a sequential order, following one after another without others coming in between. As the current amendment resolution is written, what would happen if an individual was elected to the city council, served 4 years, was not reelected or decided not to run, then ran again 4 years later and was elected? They could then serve 12 consecutive years because it would be consecutive. I believe a better way to amend the resolution would be to eliminate the word consecutive or change consecutive to total. This would make it ironclad 12 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Okay, very good. No other comments then on those items? Okay, very good. We will move on then to other business. Item number 10, approve the real property agreement with Vittorio Public Market Incorporated. Chris Gioni is coming forward for that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Chris Gioni, Public Services Director. This item is a follow-up item to an action the council took some time ago. And this project started way back in 2015 when the city purchased about 26 acres of property south of Tennant Avenue near Highway 101. with the intention to build recreation facilities on that property. In 2016, after the purchase, the city included that property in the request for annexation that went to LAFCO, which was denied. Then down the road a bit in 2019, the council directed staff to look at an opportunity to find an alternative site for those recreation amenities, and to potentially use this site for agriculture permanently. An alternative site was identified in 2021, which the city purchased on Monterey Road, south of Butterfield Avenue, 20 acres. And to pay for that, funds were transferred from the Agricultural Preservation Fund to pay back the park fund for this property at Tenant and 101. So it became the property of the Open Space and Agricultural Preservation Fund. In 2022, we received interest from various firms about utilizing that at a higher level. And we did a request for letters of intent, followed by a more formal request for proposals to find potential agritourism type uses that could still use the site for the agricultural uses that are identified by the county, but also potentially use it in a greater extent than what was being used, which was basically the row crop farming that you see there today. So last year in November, the council reviewed proposals from the two developers that provided proposals for the site, and one was Terra Amico, which has recently changed their name to the Victoria Public Market, and the council directed staff to negotiate an agreement, and that agreement is what we're coming back with you today. So what you have in front of you is the opportunity to approve an option to lease, which leads to an option to purchase. There's some extensive terms in there and some requirements to get to that point. But the ultimate goal would be that the site would develop for that agricultural tourism use. And you've all seen the proposal from the Victoria Public Market, which has not changed since you reviewed it in November. The ultimate goal is for the city to put an agricultural easement over that property and ultimately potentially sell that property, add it to our preserved agriculture in perpetuity, take the money we get for that sale and potentially use it to preserve more ag land in the area. So the agreement that's outlined in your packet includes a 5-year option period before the lease has to begin. And the reason there's a 5-year option period is the development will have to go through the county planning process because it's outside the city and in the county. So I know the developer's already been working with the county on that process, but it does take some time and will likely require an environmental impact report or some significant CEQA work. So that's what that option period is for. Them to do that due diligence work on the county. Once the option is executed, then they would have a 10-year lease of the property from that time. Within that 10-year lease, there would be options to extend the lease and options to purchase as long as investments are made on the property. Significant investments are made on the property towards the proposal that was outlined and presented to the council. I know the developers here today, if you have questions of them. And with that, I will conclude my report and take questions if you have.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Nice report. Any questions by the council? Councilmember Spring.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Keone. I think last time we talked about this project was November last year.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I believe so.
So nothing really has changed other than the name of the entity interested in leasing that property. The only question I have for you and city manager is the potential option. So if they were to invest $500,000, right, and they could buy the property, would they buy it at the pre-easement price or post-easement price?
It would be post-easement because we would put the easement on it to preserve the property, and then they would pay that appraised value, which would be lower, than the pre-easement, because the pre-easement will be based on speculation for other development down the road. But in us putting the easement on it, it will preserve it for agricultural use only forever. So the value will be lower. But it would be appraised with that easement taken into consideration.
So just hypothetically thinking beyond, then let's assume it were all to go down that road, the city would sell it. And then all of a sudden that project would cease to exist. What would happen then?
Ultimately, if it ceased to exist, and the easement was placed on it, if the city owned the property, another agricultural use could go there. And we can use that. If it's owned by the developer, they would still own the property, and the business goes out of business, someone else could buy it, but it would be for agricultural use. And that's why the value would only be at the post easement valuation.
Right. So my understanding is correct. Once the easement, we wouldn't sell it without the easement in place. Is that a correct understanding?
Correct. The contract provides us the opportunity when they give us notification of they want to execute the option to purchase. If they've made the requirements to make that option to purchase, we would have the time period to put the easement on the site.
And that would ensure it would be preserved for agricultural purposes only, regardless of who the owner is.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Martinez Beltran?
Thanks. Chris, that's in perpetuity, right?
The easement we would
Yep.
place over it would be in perpetuity.
Great. And then also I'm assuming that any capital investment that they do to meet their threshold in order to extend the option, that would also the purchase would include that value.
The purchase would include any improvements that are on there.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? There being none, we'll open public comment. Michelle, any comments on this item?
Gage?
Nick?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council staff and community. My name is Nick Gage, and I'm speaking to you tonight in my role as CEO and President of Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce. As a quick refresher, the Chamber shared our voice of support for the Fotora Public Market Concept proposal at the council meeting in November of 2023 for the following reasons. First, Joe and Lisa Ranieri have created a pioneering vision, which has realized will create an agricultural ecosystem unlike anything seen in California, located right here in Morgan Hill. As proposed, the Fotora Public Market incorporates all essential elements for success and sustainability and specific attention to detail, company formation, operational execution, target marketing, educational venues, and community advocacy are professionally researched and articulated in the proposal. The current team of collaborators and board advisors reflects an elevated level of cross-industry experience, expert subject matter professionals lending credibility, commitment, and passion to engage and contribute at all required stages of agreement negotiations. Again, Terramika Farms' current business has clearly demonstrated a strong commitment to local Morgan Hill businesses and residents with an unequal passion to extend relationships and partnerships within the greater community of Morgan Hill. We truly believe that the creation of a public market concept, the inclusion of education and community advocacy in Morgan Hill, establishes a clear and distinctive value add for our Morgan Hill tourism efforts by providing a premier signature destination location for our agro market segment. The proposal's model will also serve as a catalyst for young farm entrepreneurs to have a physical location to learn, grow, and expand their business. So for these and several other reasons, the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce once again tonight strongly encourages the council to accept the staff recommendations as outlined in the staff report, ensuring that the necessary steps to create what will be recognized as a generational legacy of agritourism and economic development in Morgan Hill will continue to move forward from concept to reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nick. Any other comments?
No, Mayor.
There being none, we'll close the public comment on that item and then bring it back for council discussion. If there's no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Please, go ahead.
Can you entertain a motion for 1 and 2 or separate?
I believe we can do for 1 and 2, yes, but together at the same time.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to accept item 10, 1 and 2.
Second.
Very good. Councilmember Borgelli on the motion, Councilmember Martinez Beltran on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There being none, that passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 11, consider updates to Council Policy 9701. Christina, you'll be leading the charge on that one.
Yes. So this item is a future council initiated agenda item. And so this particular item is the third step in the process. And so on February 21st, Councilmember Borgioli added a future agenda item requesting council not entertain any positions on foreign or international events or subject matter concerning affairs outside the Morgan Hill purview. And then on April 24th, the council voted in favor of a formal discussion on the topic. And so that's where we are today. So if the council wants to move forward with this policy modification, we would recommend the council look to policy number 9701 and look at the addition of a statement. And so I'll just read a brief statement that I believe would encapsulate a certain language that would prohibit foreign matters. And so council shall not act or take a position on matters outside of the Morgan Hill City Council's subject matter jurisdiction, including foreign or international events. Appropriate subject matter jurisdiction includes agenda items directly related to Morgan Hill business, as well as county regional items having a direct impact on the city, i.e. countywide emergency services, transportation. Included in your packet is a write-up in 9701. It's marked for changes for this language to be considered. And so that language or other language could be considered by the council tonight if you so desire to move forward with a policy modification. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Very good. And this is step 3 in the process. And Gino, Councilmember Borgioli, since you brought us forward, any comments on your part? And we'll open it up for council questions.
Well, I think I extensively talked about this the last time. And I don't think I'm going to repeat everything.
Okay.
I just, everything the city manager spoke about is something that I think we should strongly consider. That last event some time ago, bringing an international affair to Morgan Hill cost the city almost $10,000 in taxpayer money. And again, I'm very concerned about how we look at things coming to the council. So I really believe we have to have a sharp focus on Morgan Hill and be very careful. Again, we're looking at the budget. So I think adding any expense that like the last time is something that's detriment to Morgan Hill. So I think the new policy spells it out, and we should really strongly consider that going forward.
Very good. Any questions by the council? Councilmember Spring?
Yeah, the question for city manager. So any council majority can overrule any council policy, right? Even if it's in writing.
Absolutely. So for example, if there were something to come forward that you wanted the council to consider that was outside the realm of this policy, it would require an amendment to this council policy. And then if the amendment was then made, then the council could consider that adjustment.
Right. And the other question, not so much a question, but you probably can confirm any resident can speak up, or 100 residents can speak up on any during the public comment period on any item that is not on the agenda, and there's nothing we as a council could do. That policy would not apply no matter what the topic is.
So a couple things. So one is we have public comment for items not on the agenda. And so the way that we have the agenda written, so right now it's just for in-person comment or comments made over email. And the way that it's written, and I'm pulling it up right now, is that grab my glasses here. So members can come in and address the council concerning any item within the Morgan Hill City Council's subject matter jurisdiction. And so if the city council subject matter jurisdiction is ruled by 9701, then it would have to not relate to foreign matters.
Okay.
And so go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's almost a legal question then where does the First Amendment kick in?
Oh, what did I say? Generally, matters that are discussed at the city council meetings are related to matters that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council, which are the actions that you have authority to act on. But I think as a practice, we have not stopped people from commenting on other matters. But we could if we chose to do that.
During the public, my understanding always was that because of the First Amendment, it's very limited influence the council has on what anyone says during the public comment section on items that are not on the agenda. Is my understanding incorrect?
Well, this is a limited public forum really the public comments are suggested to be related to what you actually can act on as a city council. However, I think in practice, we have allowed people to comment.
Right.
The First Amendment is not unlimited. So typically, the comments are supposed to be related to matters that city council would address.
So for me, that is where we quickly get into a gray zone, right? Many of us are immigrants, including myself, right? If something happens somewhere where my side of the family lives, of course that impacts me as a resident too, one way or another. So why could I not bring that up, right? Why would the city council say, no, you can't say it, even though I'm a resident?
Well, typically, the purpose of the public comment is to express the opinion of somebody from our community with respect to something that the city council could actually have taken action on. So if it's not something that's occurring here, that has occurred somewhere else, there is no action that the city council could take to affect that event.
Okay, so I'll use other, we have COVID impacting our community, right? That did not start here in Morgan Hill. Clearly, that was an international affair. So where do you draw the line, right? And who determines what we can act on or not, right?
Generally, the mayor acts on, regulating the public comment period. I think COVID is very different than something that's occurred somewhere else out of this jurisdiction. COVID did require the city council to take action within our community.
Right, but it was an international event happening.
Having direct impact here in Morgan Hill, though.
As to many other international events.
Yeah, so I would just echo what our assistant city attorney is stating, that it has just been the past practice that speakers have not been cut off because their topic was unrelated to subject matter.
Right. I'm just trying to find out where you draw the line, right? For me, quickly, you end up in the gray. So climate change is another topic, right? This is not caused by a local Morgan Hill event, right? Our global climate change crisis.
I believe that the intention of the item that was brought forward was not to limit public comment for items not on the agenda, but rather to limit the council taking positions by way of resolution related to these matters outside of what directly impacts us.
Okay. I think that answers my questions for now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Martinez Beltran.
Thank you. So conversely, we also, as it stands now, the council could decide not to hear any item they decide not to hear, correct?
I'm referring to items.
I'm referring to any item that says a foreign or international item. This council has the ability to not hear any item they don't wish to hear currently at this moment.
So it would go through the process, right? So any council member can bring up a topic during future agenda items. And so this policy would then guide the council members to what sort of items can be brought up. So council members, if this policy was in place, wouldn't bring up items related to foreign policy. They would only bring up items related to Morgan Hill or countywide regional sort of issues.
I think we just established that that's pretty gray in what what areas that would be. So what I'm saying is the way that the policy is now, if this council did not want to hear any particular item, they would be able to vote to not do that.
It could go through the three
It
step
would go through the process and we could vote to not do that. Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure why we would need to change anything when we have just talked about the First Amendment. And it does seem like we get into lots of gray areas where there's lots of policies that have number of different, perspectives and influences and all of that. So I think could be very limiting.
If I can just add, I think the distinction here is that if the policy were in place, then items just wouldn't be brought forward for the council. So they wouldn't be agendized for future consideration, taking the time of the council to consider the item, taking the time of staff to work through the item and to bring it forward. We just wouldn't have that process. So it would reduce that.
I think that would be limiting the community's input. I think that could be another form of censorship that makes me very nervous about where we're entering to as a council. So, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, Councilmember?
I just kind of like that, anyone.
Your questions would be directed to City Manager, unless you ask me to. Okay.
So City Manager. Yes. Anyone can get up and speak at the beginning of the meeting about any subject, correct?
They can. It does say on the agenda for subject matter jurisdiction. However, as mentioned, the mayor and mayors in the past have not cut off discussion comments as long as they're not violent or any threats.
So the public would have an opportunity if they wanted to bring something forward during public comment before we start our meeting or,
during the meeting. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I just have a clarifying question on that. Well, I understand what my council member is saying. If they do bring something forward, this would limit, there would be nowhere else for it to go. They could just speak there. There's no way for them to ask body that they have elected to take any kind of action on that.
Right. So how that would play out is that council wouldn't be able to adopt a resolution related to foreign matters
or anything else, or make any or have any conversation, or talk about, a vigil, or talk about community conversation. Council wouldn't be able to take no action on that, because in public comment, it's simply somebody making a comment. There's no conversation, there's no request, there's no action that's taken by their elected.
And that, yes, exactly. And, some cities have had this sort of policy in place for years. And as a matter of fact, this came up at our most recent county city manager meeting. And there's a variety of options that cities have taken. And as a matter of fact, San Jose's had a resolution since the 70s to this effect. Some cities, decided not to move forward with anything, but others have these sort of policies in place so that this body just focuses, in this case, on Morgan Hill business.
Right. And actually, because of the San Jose, they had some legal litigation and reach out. They were so compelled to do a letter on a recent issue that they then had some legal issues come up and they had to take actions. I know I talked with some of the colleagues there. So I think, again, part of that is because you're flirting with the First Amendment.
Okay. Any public comment?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Do I have time to make a comment? Did you put in the
card?
Oh, that I haven't been able to.
So, sir, if you would, you can put in a public comment card, and that we do have a process, and we have a gentleman at the lectern now who's going to speak. Please put it.
Good evening again. The only thing that I have a concern about, this in no way will affect your taking positions on something that the county does, the state does, or the federal government does that may affect Morgan Hill. And then the other comment I have is, just as an example, per the discussion you've been having, I suggest that we have a moment of silence at the next meeting for Willie Mays.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And you can just put your name on it, just so I have a name to call out.
You leave?
No.
No, I'm just joking. I'm kidding.
I like when it's sleep.
And then if you want to.
Get all filled out. I
No,
apologize,
okay.
Mayor.
You're good.
Ron Foltz.
Ron Foltz?
Ron, thank you. Come on up.
My name is Ron Foltz. I live here in Morgan Hill, obviously. I'm a truck driver. I've lived here for 5-6 years now. I apologize for the way I'm dressed. I had to rush here to get here from work so that I wasn't late. I didn't want to disturb the meeting while it was in progress by going home and changing. We're talking about the First Amendment. Commissioner, not Commissioner,
Councilman.
Representative.
It's called supervisor earlier, so.
Renee Spring. I'd like to commend you. I'd like to commend you on the comment that you made. I'm impressed with it. It was well taken. We're talking about First Amendment. A couple times now, I've been coming to this meeting, to these meetings as often as they happen, as often as I can make it. There have been a few times that I haven't been able to say anything. I wasn't sure what the process was to sign up. I'd like to bring to this council's attention a couple of things and to the people that are sitting here today. There are some issues. I live here along with most of you. It was brought to my attention that there has been legislation for marijuana boutiques, that there is apparently legislation that's going on regarding low-income housing. That there was legislation that was spoken about and I assume voted on last week regarding
Ron, stop, if you would stop the clock. We are speaking, you need to speak, address the item that we're talking about here. The items that you were bringing up were not in line with this item. So if you would please get refocused on this item in particular.
Okay, I will bring those up another time. I apologize. I will move forward with, you're talking about the public, having the opportunity to get up and speak, in public for things to be considered by the council. I am, like I said, I wasn't sure what the process was. There have been items that have been discussed by this council that I walked away. I record these meetings. I take them in my truck with me and I listen to them. In that way, I've got a feel for the pulse of what's going on in Morgan Hill, what's important in Morgan Hill. So I listen to them when I'm at work. And there are issues that are going on in the city that I'm not quite sure how to address. The mayor was kind enough to meet with me at one point, and so he knows my interest in the city, interest in participating, et cetera, et cetera. There are issues that are going on that I'm not peaceful about. I spoke with a woman that lives, her name is Carol. I don't know what her last name is, but she was here a couple of weeks ago. She received a plaque.
I'm gonna stop you one more time. You need to address the item that we're talking about with regards to what's on the agenda.
Okay. First Amendment, opening up the opportunity, opening up the meetings for people to have the opportunity to speak. I think that's First Amendment issues are incredibly important. It seems to me the way it's been said, maybe it's my own lack of know-how, but I haven't known how to approach filling out a card. I apologize for that, but I haven't known what the process was to stand up. But participation by the public is very important. And in fact, the whole reason I would assume why these meetings are held by the Morgan Hill City Council is to inform the public and to receive back from the public issues that are important to Morgan Hill. And I think that's something that needs to be first and foremost on the agenda of this council.
Thank you, Ron. Your time is up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No, Mayor.
Then we'll close the public comment, bring it back for council discussion. Any comments? Again, this is discussion time, not so much more questions, but if you have a clarifying question, feel free. Councilmember Borgelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, I have a clarifying question. The way I understand this item number 11 is it's not restricting anybody from speaking on any subject matter at our meetings. So we're not restricting or hampering the public from speaking on anything that they wish to speak on. So I'd like the city manager or the city attorney to either clarify it or indicate what I'm saying is the issue.
Sure. So what we've provided in response to the desire of the majority of the council to hear this item is proposed language. And so it's an addition of a clause to your existing policy 9701. And it's basically just council shall not act or take a position on, and that's what I read before. So it's really just related to items for which you will not take a position on. So what's being proposed is nothing to change any protocols as it relates to public comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Any other comments? Councilmember Spring?
Yeah, so city manager, that's not what you said 2 minutes ago. The 2 minutes ago, you said during the public comment period, the presiding officer would determine what is okay to be mentioned or not. The presiding officer would determine. That's different than what you just said.
So
I think I was the one that said that because you asked about public comment, and that is already within our public comment language on our agenda every meeting. And so that is what the Brown X does allow us to do that. It does allow us to focus the questions or the comments on items that are within your jurisdiction as the city council. As I also said, and the city manager echoed, is that we've not done that as a practice.
We have a policy, but we have a different practice, and that's worrisome, right? Again, I apologize if you said it, not the city manager, but I knew someone had said it. To me, this just triggers a slippery slope of what is okay or not, right? We might have a presiding officer that is more lenient and one that is not. And then we would confuse our community in what is okay to bring up and what is not okay to bring up. For me, First Amendment trumps everything. Whether I like the input or not, it does not matter. I think that is one of the most important rights we as citizens have in this country. And thankfully, we do have that right, and we need to preserve that even on local level. Again, we have a lot of people from other areas of the world living in our community too. And sometimes they look at certain events that happen in the world differently than those that do not have families in other countries. And we need to be cognizant of that and sensitive to their needs as well, and to the various immigrant communities that we have. But it's not just that. My colleague also mentioned, the cost of security when we have a lot of people and then maybe some very controversial topics. We can have those controversial topics, and we had them on domestic issues too in this house. I remember that personally, that we needed a lot of security on some of the topics, and those are just as costly. So where do you draw the line? We have a process in place, right? Any of us can propose a future agenda item, and then eventually a council majority decides whether or not it moves forward. If the council majority, regardless of jurisdiction, decides it's not moving forward, that's the end of it. So I don't see a need to restrict our policies further, that pretty much to censure what our residents in our community can bring forward and suggest. I think that is the wrong approach. That is so bad, in my opinion, to even suggest that. It triggers the perception we want to silence people in the community, and I'm not for that. I will not approve any changes to our policies.
Can I be clear though? Before you tonight has nothing to do with public comment. That was only raised by your questions. Tonight is only the changing the policy for what issues may be raised here. So there's not been any suggestion that public comment will be suppressed in any way, or the way that we were going to receive it.
Of course it will. I strongly disagree with what you just said. With all due respect, most of the items any of us council members bring forward are because they are brought to our attention by residents. And we kind of act as a sponsor and as a liaison to the council to bring them forward. Anything contrary to that is just not common sense. And I apologize if I say it that way, but I strongly disagree with you.
Councilmember Martinez Beltran.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I I absolutely agree with my colleague. I think that, again, as I said, that this is flirting with the First Amendment. I don't think that we need to micromanage the community or what they deem is important for us to decide on as a council. I think that we should make it as easy as possible and as welcoming as possible. Us sitting here on the dais, so I'll speak for, I mean, I understand and know the process inside and out. So for me, I think that's different, but as you can just see, that was just demonstrated, one of our members of the public is not familiar with it. Many people are not familiar with this process. And I think that we need to accommodate that. And we already have a process. We already have a process that you go through. There's no reason for us to micromanage the front end of that, the back end of that. There's already a process that we set up, and this council here can decide whether or not they're going to hear an item. And I think that we should allow that process to continue rather than trying to decide what it is that we want to hear. We should let the public tell us what it is they want to hear. And I agree with you 100%. You know, as far as trying to talk about the cost of security and, you know, very respectfully, I mean, I've seen these chambers packed over economic development. I've seen them packed, you know, over gun control. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking foreign or domestic, or you're talking LGBTQ, or you're talking about unhoused. It could be any series of topics that we're talking about. And I hate to break it to you folks, but some of them are really contentious. And that means that we're going to rock and roll and have to hear what everybody has to say, because that's what you do in a community. And that's what you do in a family, at least where I'm from. That's what you do. You come to the table, you lay out the chips, and you figure out where you're going to go. So that's where I stand, and that's what I'll be voting for.
Councilmember Liebers.
Thank you, Mayor. If you read the very first words of this, it says council shall not act or take position on matters outside of the Morgan Hill City Council's subject matter jurisdiction. That says it right there. We're not in any way saying people can't say anything they want during public comment. We're not restricting them. We're just setting a standard so we don't get into the problem that we had a few months ago, where we were asked by hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, citizens to take a side. If we had taken one side or the other side would have been upset. So instead of putting ourselves in that position to have to decide on some international thing that we know nothing about, other than what we see on the news, and that's not always correct, then let's protect ourselves on international and foreign policy. That's what I see as written on this. And if in public comment, we got a lot of people speaking last couple months, and it comes up again, I feel if a council member feels that we should, as a council, look at this, they can direct our city manager through our email process to bring this back to the council. And there's always a chance to change it, override it, to consider it. But right now, if we set this in place, I believe that we are saving a lot of wasted time debating on something that we are not up to date on to make those kind of decisions or to alienate the other side of the community. So I am positively for putting this statement in as part of the policy.
Councilmember Bourgeois.
Councilmember Liebers, you said it eloquently, so thank you very much. But I do take offense to my colleague on my left saying that we're restricting the public and using those types of words. I think our city attorney said it very nicely. We're not restricting anybody from getting up there. So to make that overture that because of this policy, we're doing that is really very dangerous to make those types of comments. So I would like to call the question, and I would like to move forward.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. And you've called for the vote.
Right.
So we now have to move for the vote and he did make a
You need to
motion.
Make a motion.
A motion to do what though?
Right, you called the question, you need to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 11 as stated in the report.
4.3.
I mean,
It's 4.3
I'm sorry, 4.3.
of item.
Thank you.
So we have a motion,
Second,
have a second. Comment?
I'd like to make a comment on the motion. So my colleagues just, I understand the wording of the policy, but they refer back to the discussion we had at the council chamber a few weeks back. This policy would not change any of that. Nothing, zero, because everyone who spoke up that evening still could come and speak up. And what did we do? We did, a majority of our council decided not to take action. That's exactly what you want. I don't understand why you want another policy change if the policy as it is in place is already clear.
Excuse me, Mayor, a point of order. I've already made a motion and we already hashed exactly what Councilmember Spring is saying. So either he accepts it or he doesn't.
Mayor, this is out of order. My colleague is not supposed to interrupt me directly. That should happen through you. If he wants to say something.
Well, he did come through me. We do have a motion and a second. Understood. I've yet to even say anything on this.
I appreciate, Mayor, I have every right to say something on the motion and my colleagues have no right to interrupt me.
Please finish.
I am really offended by my colleague to interrupt me and the mayor lets him do that. That's not okay, Mayor.
Okay, well, I apologize. I'm sorry.
And please do finish up.
So having said that, for me, the policy as written in place, just to satisfy everything on top of that is nothing else but trying to limit the topics that residents can bring into, no matter how you wordsmith it or so. The intentions are clear of what's behind this motion. So I will not vote in favor of it.
Okay, very good. We are now going to vote. We've got a motion and a second.
That's fine.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Passes 3-2. Next item is for public hearing. This is to adopt the fiscal year 2024, 2025 and 2025, 2026 operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We have coming up Monica Delgado, our budget manager, as well as Dat Wynn, our finance director. And they are going to present a presentation. So today is the public hearing and recommended adoption of our operating budget for the next 2 fiscal years, as well as the capital improvement budget for the next 6 years. And with that, I will turn it over to Monica.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, community members, and fellow teammates that are present tonight. I'm Monica Delgado, the city's budget manager. The item you have before you tonight is the final stage of the budget process, the public hearing and budget adoption. This evening's discussion and adoption focus on shaping the budget for the next 2 fiscal years. The recommended budget aligns with the city council's goals, emphasizing community priorities such as enhancing public safety through initiatives like funding for the 3rd fire station and 2 additional police officers. Our approach remains nimble, leveraging grants and partnerships to help cover costs. Use of reserves, the budget is balanced and only considers revenues that have some degree of certainty. Even in our best of times, there's always room for some more support, more public safety officers, more recreation programs, more community funding. We need to budget according to the city's projected revenues. The city has a strong and clear economic development agenda and program. We've been proactive in responding to various economic conditions in the past and will continue to do so. The best thing the city can do is have clear goals and policies, programs and zoning that support the city's goals and seize opportunities as they arise. Tonight, I will outline the key highlights and updates since the budget workshop on May 22nd. The overall recommended budget for fiscal year 24-25 is 207.9 million and 254.4 million for FY 25-26. The total six-year capital improvement program budget is $271.2 million. Changes to the operating budget since the budget workshop include the addition of just over $18,000 for community funding, $35,000 in park operations for the ongoing maintenance at Villa Miramonte. Police Department was successful in obtaining a grant for about $344,000 from the California Highway Patrol for the Cannabis Tax Grant Fund Program for DUI enforcement. With an amendment to the city's staff services agreement with the city of Gilroy that would extend stormwater program and environmental management services by providing part-time temporary staffing to support the coordination of Gilroy's stormwater program, as well as ongoing environmental program management by the city of Morgan Hill. The extension of these services is expected to have a positive net impact of about $43,000 to the city's general fund. And finally, an addition of just under $43,000 to purchase equipment needed for the new fire building inspector position. Changes to the CIP budget include moving a total of $3 million from the groundwater wells and water pipeline and repair replacement projects to the Holiday Lake Improvements Project due to higher than anticipated costs. We're also adding a $1.5 million loan from the Library Impact Fund to the Public Safety Facilities Fund for the fire station project. A loan repayment schedule is included in the forecast years of the recommended CIP budget. Next is a summary of personnel changes in the general fund. In total, the city is recommending adding 4 FTEs over the 2 years, as well as staffing for the 3rd fire station. 2 of these FTEs are completely offset with a reduction in other expense line items, and the other 2 FTEs are for new police officer positions, 1 in each year. Also, a couple of reclassifications that help keep the city competitive by addressing concerns around retention, recruitment, and compaction. Outside of the general fund, there's a total of 5 new FTEs, as well as a few reclassifications. Again, a couple of these FTEs are pending a fee analysis, and the Public Services Facility Security Coordinator position is proposed in the 2nd year of the recommended budget. Finally, a 10-year historical look at our FTE count from FY 16-17 through the recommended year of 215.25 FTE. Next, let's focus on the general fund 6-year forecast. Considering all the updates through today, we're anticipating ending the 6-year forecast with a fund balance of $10 million. This will maintain our fund balance minimum level of reserves at 15% of revenue. Based on council direction received at the budget workshop and included in the recommended budget, $331,000 in community funding and $35,000 for park maintenance at Villa Miramonte has been included. Now I'm going to pass the floor to Dat, our finance director, who will carry forward with the rest of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Good evening to Mr. Mayor, council members, Dat Nguyen, Finance Director. So this for the next couple of slides you have seen at the workshop just a few weeks ago. Talk about the unfunded future needs, and the council asked us to put in dollar amount on those unfunded future needs that we have identified at the workshop. The first one, of course, the future public safety needs, including the additional police officers and 4 fire stations. As you have seen, some community members have shown, and our police chief have shown that currently our ratio of number of officers per 1,000 residents is kind of the low end of the county average. So in order to bring to the consider as the what other cities north of us to a ratio of 1.1, we would need additional 7 police officers, and at about $250,000 per officers, that equate to about $1.7 million annually. The other one is the cost of the building of potential 4-5 station. And the building, the purchase of land and construction costs of fire station, of course, will come from the impact fees that currently estimate at about $15 to $20 million. And about $2.5 million to staff and operating the fourth station. The other unfunded future needs are the public safety equipment. We probably need additional $3 million to fully replace the fire vehicles. As you know, the currently CAL FIRE personnel operate 2 engines and a truck. So to basically fully replace those vehicles that are over 10 years old, we would need additional $3 million. On top of that, our police department as well as fire would need to replace the handheld radios. That's also over about 10 years old. That costs about $700,000. And I know that the police chief and working with CAL FIRE are currently looking for the opportunity to replace those equipment. And other funded future needs, including the requirement to electrify the city's fleet, based on current estimates, would cost the city about $1.5 million to electrify, one-time cost, and that does not include public safety vehicles, include police and fire. Parks and street and storm drain maintenance, currently estimated $1.5 million. And you have seen that in the past, we have showed you that we lost from the level funded contribution to the RDCS or residential control system. In the past, we received about $1 million from developers. We have not seen that since the SB 330. Now that cost to fully fund parks and street and storm maintenance, that would cost the city about $1.5 million annually. The other costs include the increase as our population continue to get older in the community. We want to provide digital services. At the current moment, short term, we definitely need at least 1 FTE at about $150,000 per year. And long term, the cost has been analyzed right now. And other additional department needs that as well need to be identified. The revenue enhancements. So I know that the city has a very fabulous and very focused economic development team. I know our team, we represent the city and council to retain and expand our businesses, in addition to attract new businesses, basically to help bring in the development that potentially increase our tax revenue that support the city services that we provide to our community. In addition, they're focused also to attract businesses that bring the jobs locally here, so our residents could live and work within the city. At the prior workshop, the council and community only asked about potential what the revenue would generate from the business parks, especially those that recently completed last year, Butterfield 5, and the one supposed to be going online pretty soon at the Cochrane Technology Center. And the city typically analyze, project our budget based on the of certainty, and based on those 2 business parks, we use the average of the 50 manufacturing companies within the city. And for property tax, for those that we know for sure, that on this city inventory, those property tax generate from the similar manufacturing generate about 4 cents to 14 cents per square foot. And for sales tax, it come up between 8 cents to over 17 cents per square foot. Based on those 50 manufacturing businesses, we can project that sales tax generate from those similar square footage from the Cochrane Tech Center and Butterfield 5. Those 2 combined could potentially generate over $100,000 per year. For property tax, we already know that how much Butterfield 5 could generate for us, and a similar size and cost to build the Cochrane Center, we could in theory project the same property tax that Butterfield 5 currently paid to contribute to the city. For those property tax, we will build in the recommended budget, but we have not included any potential sales tax, as we know of really right now, not so much uncertainty, especially one of the center is not going online yet. The other measures that the city asks us to look into. Of course, I know that you have seen the city manager email on the council update that we know for sure we'll probably going to hear some result from the Supreme Court ruling on the CBRT proposition. Depending on the ruling, potentially the city could to enhance the city revenue to support city services, we could either issue a sales tax or through general or special tax based on the potential 1/4 cent sales tax that we can put and the voter approve. The city could potentially generate additional $2 million annually. For utility user tax that our neighbors in South and all of us that have Morgan Hill would potentially generate additional $5 million annually for the city discretionary spending. And other potential measures that this council and public community could consider include bond issuance as well as additional parcel tax. The scenarios that council members and community members ask us to look into in case what will happen if we get more revenue, or worst case, what if happen, back to the to our economy. Even though we're not doing a budget, we do not forecast in the budget in the 6 year at least to foresee any downturn in the economy. But based on the past economic downturns, the most recent one is of course the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. That's probably hopefully never going to happen again. And of course, the Great Recession happened about less than 20 years ago, in 2008. And the one that happened to regionally, locally here in the Bay Area is the dot-com crash. That even though it impacted the region severely, but nationally, the economy nationally was still growing at that time. But to play with some of the analysis potential what happened if there's a mild recession, even though that we're not forecasting that, but there's some talk chatter out there that potentially it could happen because of the high inflation and high cost of doing business because high interest rate. There's a chance of a mild recession might happen, and based on historical trends happen to the city's revenues. The two revenue category that potentially get hit the hardest or get hit are the sales tax and the transit occupancy tax. And just not forecast that if the mild recession can occur, the city could potentially losing $5 million in revenue loss over 4 years from the sales tax and utility tax. And one item that's also not doing the budget, and we are waiting for a result as well. Hopefully, we can hear them for the result in near term. But from what we've been reading, we probably won't get the result until 2025. Is the possible loss of $2 million from potential state control audit of the county's calculation of the excess ERAF. And potential action if some of those worst case scenario that we just mentioned. Before we walk through this slides, I just want to remind the council and the community that the staff here in Morgan Hill has a very good track record of being very proactive in dealing with taking action immediately if changes in economic conditions. Best case was just recently in 2020 pandemic. Everything was shut down. I know a lot of cities, our neighbor, north of the south will mass lay off or making abrupt changes to their staffing. Morgan Hill did not. We took it very, even though we took considerate approach, but we also make a realistic, believing that this is a short-term thing and something that we want to actually make decision. In another way, potential action that we could elevate the impact of our general fund or our budget if the worst case scenario is going to happen is that we could defer the general fund recommended budget enhancement and the savings would be $2.5 million if we postpone that over 2 years. and other action including deferred discretionary funding, such as funding to our other post-employment benefit, as well as street CIP. And based on as of last week, current vacancy, we could freeze hiring freeze for those opening vacancies. The potential savings over 2 years is about $1.4 million. And the other additional scenarios that we have briefly talk about at the workshop are the potential what will happen to the general fund reserve if we do something. And one of the things that you council will get a chance to debate, discuss, and approve next week is the solar project. Just for cost saving, as we mentioned in the CIP and at the workshop, there's a potential substantial cost savings for the cities to general fund about $600,000 a year if we going to implement or put in place the some of the solar projects, as well as purchase out or buy out of the existing solar system. One little correction in this scenario is that from the latest analysis that we just reviewed, unfortunately, that project, if it comes to approved and everything got built out and these savings that realized, it won't happen until the fiscal year 26-27. What you see in here is we kind of gun and move forward 1 year is 25-26. So the impact is that about $600,000 that we may not realize. So wherever you see on the potential percentage of the general fund saving in this case, if we put in the solar project of the savings that we expect to realize, the chart will give us the instead of 50%. Or $10 million by the 2030, we can see a chart to be at about 20%. But less 1 year, if you take out 1 year delay in the realized savings, the potential the chart here, you probably need to take out 1 percentage point. So by the 6th year, we'll see with the recommended budget and the realization of the solar savings. Solar project savings, by 60, 2030, our general forecast will be at about 19%, or over $12 million versus $10 million that currently in the recommended budget. The other scenario is with the recommended budget, there's a solar projects, and then one thing we want to do, and that's why we put in the this order, is we want to address the cost of living adjustment. As I mentioned a couple of times during the workshop and in the budget document, after 2026, no cost of living adjustment or COLA has been built in the budget. So one thing, the first thing we would do if the budget allowed is to build out the expected COLA adjustment after 2026. And what will happen if we add additional officers? So with the solar project, and then the first thing we want to do is build in the cost of living adjustment after 2026. The impact of one police officer is going to give the general fund out to about 8% or about $5.7 million remaining at the end of 2030 fiscal year. And the other scenario is if we don't do the COLA adjustment after 2026. I know that would be very unrealistic, but it's just to think about. If we have the solar project and adding 1 police officers, our projected forecast at the end of 2030 fiscal year going to be about 18%. Still remain above the City Council adopted goal. But again, this is something that we have to prioritize. This is something we want to do based on the revenues that we're forecasting. And the other scenarios in here is with the solar project, and we build on the 2% cost of living adjustment after 2026, and we take out the general fund recommended enhancements. What will it look like? we would end the 6-year forecast at 22% with the fund balance of about $14.5 million cash in hand. And what would happen if we go to voters, ask for the external revenue enhancements, one called sales tax? Well, we'll be at above the and add on to police officers, we'll be above the council long-term goal of 25%. And to meet or to be comparable with other cities at the police ratio of 1.1 to 1,000 residents, that means that we will be adding additional 7 officers, including 2 in the recommended budget. And with the solar project savings and the cost of living adjustment bill out throughout until after 2026, and with the possible 1/4 sales tax approved by the voters, we would end the 6-year at 19% of about $13.4 million. And here, this slide just kind of gives you a summarize of all the scenarios that we have put together.
It does have a legend. No.
And what the staff recommend tonight is to open and close the public hearing and to adopt resolutions to adopt the current year budget amendments, as well as the next 2 years operating budget and the 6-year CIP program. And in addition, adopt the 24-25 appropriation limits and the appropriation limits adjustment factors, or on our words, GAN limits. And approve the recommended 24-25 community funding, and adopt the revised scarcity schedules for ASME and management, as well as elected officials and council appointed positions. And that concludes my presentation, and here with the team would answer any question that you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Dat. Any questions by Councilmember Spring?
Yeah, thank you to both of you. Obviously, you listened to what was said at the workshop, and appreciate all the additional work you put in. I understand we use the proposed budget as a baseline, but I think it will help this council and future council over the next couple of years to say, let's go right, let's go left, or let's stay in the middle, right? My understanding always is that what is the term you usually use? Realistic budget?
Realistic
budget. I personally tend to be a little bit more aggressive and with budgets. And the one really, why did you? So the solar, is that the same as the electrification of the fleet?
No, the solar project would be install more solar PVs on the city's facilities. So potentially that would help, just like your solar on your roof for the residential homes. So that way we would reduce our energy costs, because mostly costs will be during the day, hopefully generate from the sun, renewable.
Right, but there also would be an investment in that, right?
It's correct. There will be one-time costs, and those costs would potentially maybe more in this you see in the staff report next week. But mostly the as of now that I'm aware of, the funding for those projects will come from non-general fund or very little general fund.
Okay, so is it on all the different scenarios mentioned, because there's a net benefit out of that project?
Yes, because that's something that we know for sure that we're going, because next week you will see it. We know for sure that's going to happen. Hopefully you will debate and approve the project that moving forward, and with the realize of the analysis prepared by a consultant, the city could potentially see average of over $600,000 per year through general fund savings for the cost of utilities, electricity.
Okay, you're ahead by 1 week, and now that explains why I couldn't find it in the staff report. So I mistakenly assumed that's the upgrade of the fleet to electric. So thank you for clarifying that. On slide 14, you mentioned one of the needs, and it's really something important to me and probably others too, is when is the right time to add more police officers, right? I understand the future needs are 7, right? But what does that mean? Future 20 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years? What is that future?
The future would be when the city revenue could afford it. And that's why we have to, I know our team, everyone, and you included, should be the champion to recruit and try to retain and recruit and help the business expand here in Morgan Hill, so we could potentially generate more tax revenue, so we can have those revenue to afford additional police officers on the street.
Right. Again, it's not a decision somehow we make tonight, but I just feel the need to give staff some direction that I think we should increase the number of police officers as needed, as quickly as we can.
And you had requested at the last meeting that we come back and do a police staffing as well as a fire staffing update. And so we're going to bring that back in the fall, and you'll hear directly from the chief on staffing levels. And so, I think this proposed budget sort of strikes a balance of slowly getting there, by adding 1 additional officer each year. And then the goal, of course, is to be able to retain the officers that we now have and to minimize our vacancies, because being fully staffed plus having a new officer each year is really going to help our efforts in public safety.
Right, I understand. So I don't know how to best give you that input other than what I said at the workshop and what I'm saying now. It's kind of a question, would you just take that in as an input to keep in mind whenever you come with your monthly update, to ask council, hey, I think we're ready, we could add another position if council were to decide. Is that a fair recommendation to make? The number one topic I hear is just people don't seem to feel as safe anymore as they used to. Maybe it's because we read more than we used to, but it's really a concern for all of us probably, and the safer we feel, the happier we are, and the better community we are. And that starts with the amount of police officers, I think. So I appreciate that. The other thing, it's probably clear, but all your scenarios pretty much said, well, the 1/4 sales tax would solve it, right? Is that a correct understanding? It would solve a lot of the funding needs that are urgent.
Right.
Is that a fair assessment?
The fair assessment would be, at the moment, if we have 1%, 1/4 sales tax, yes, that would help solve it. But as you know, we have to take into consideration that the out years, the cost of adjustment, cost of living adjustment, and the growth in the population, as well as the need for all of these services. So at the moment, yes, we would love to have the 1/4 of sales tax, and that would address a lot of the communities and your needs, and as well as some of the department needs as well. But that's not what we have right now. So.
And it's also more a request, but I really still have a need for more insight is into our economic development and future revenue sources coming from that area. We've got a couple numbers for the business park. I think they're extremely disappointing, those numbers, right? If 63,000 per year is what we expect as a sales tax from each one of those business parks, that's a low number. So that's not going to solve our issues. But what else is out there, right? That is maybe somewhere in the pipeline that you all know, but we don't know yet because you can't talk about it specifically yet.
Yeah, some of the different sectors that we've talked about, are looking at auto dealers as well as hotels. Because with hotels, we get 100% of the transient occupancy tax, whereas sales tax and property tax, we split with other agencies. And so enhancing our hotel inventory is a big one. And next week, we'll have the opportunity to bring to council some information on our downtown hotel. Second, it's other sort of economic development opportunities, with the 4 sectors that are within the council adopted economic blueprint. And, it just varies by site of what's allowed, throughout the city.
Okay, thank you. Can you please go back to slide number 23? Yeah, this last bullet, I probably ask you every 2 years, but I have no clue what that is. Can you explain the last bullet point?
Yes, sure. The latest one is the result of the state controls audit of one of the county that receiving have access ERAF. They're based in the Bay Area County, Marin County. They said that the county incorrectly included the word former redevelopment agency tax increment as part of the ERAF calculation. So
I'm sorry, what is ERAF?
ERAF is the stand for Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund. The excess ERAF, basically the part of the property tax that we pay go to the schools, K-12 or colleges. And as the schools meet their revenue requirement, any over ERAF will be returned to taxing entities. Of the whatever number of counties, only 5 counties that they're all in Bay Area counties have that excess ERAF.
Okay, that's a worrisome number. That's huge, 2 million.
Yes.
How likely is that it could be that high, or could it all of a sudden become possible revenue?
What we do know is the county is aggressively litigating this on behalf of all of the agencies within the county. And it's something that's, impacting 5 counties. And it is a big number, and it's something that we are concerned about and just have to keep an eye on.
Yes. Okay, but by when?
Next year.
Next year, okay. All right, thank you, and I appreciate you explaining it. I wouldn't remember that 2 years from now again, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Liebers.
Thank you very much for this great presentation. I do have a couple of questions. If we went with the 1/4 cent tax, okay, that would have to be voter initiated, right? We couldn't just decide to do that. That would have to go before the voters, correct?
Oh, yes, then we would play on ballot and the voters need to approve it. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just was pretty sure, but I wanted to make sure. And then I have one more question. We talked about electrification of our buildings and all that. Believe it or not, San Francisco to San Jose is now electrified their train tracks. Do we have to pay any portion of that when they start to move south? Does that come out of our budget, or is that out of the build out of high-speed rail?
So you're asking if there gets to be electrification from San Jose to here?
Yeah, it'll have to be.
Right, so for one, it's not guaranteed at this point that they'll electrify the tracks. There might be just a transfer of people to get over here, which is very, very unfortunate, but we have members on this council that are advocating otherwise. But it won't directly impact Morgan Hill's budget for the work that's being done.
Won't be obligated to pay for that electrification of the railroad. Is that correct?
Not Morgan Hill from our budget.
Okay.
But depending upon what, measures get approved in the future,
Okay.
homeowners, property owners might have to pay.
Right, but we have no say in that, so other than it would probably
Getting
go
out
to
to the
vote.
vote.
Yeah, but it would be a countywide vote, right?
Right, or multiple counties, yeah.
Multiple counties. Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else? Councilmember Martinez Beltran.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say to the team, thank you so much. This is amazing what you've all done. I know it's not just you. I know every department had a hand in it, and I can't thank you enough. So, the budget has been very worrisome, as everybody is facing it. I'll start with maybe what others have thought about as well, and what I've talked with some of you about. And we look around us and see, for example, other cities are taking some pretty drastic measurements that are not far off from where we are. So I guess my first question is, you know, did we consider that and why have we landed where we're at? And I'll clarify, for example, you have the city of Campbell who has looked to do a hiring freeze. And so, you know, looking at what their revenues are and what their deficit is that they're facing, and they're somewhat comparable, they're smaller, but I want to hear, I've had a chance to hear from you. I would like for you to talk and address some of that.
Yeah, and I'll start and then maybe Dat has information that he'd also like to offer. So I will make the statement and Dat can confirm this, that our reserve levels, because of past actions by this council and councils before and our team, our reserve levels are higher than most, right? So we're, you know, at the 50% mark level.
Right.
And so some of the recommended expenditures are one-time expenditures and expenditures that are being made, you know, that will help us in the future. You know, things like putting funds aside, you know, for our trusts related to OPEB and PERS and so forth. And so we're presenting, you know, a budget that's balanced, and it's balanced based on the fact that we're drawing down reserves over time. But with that said, of course, as you see in the charts, we have to be very cautious in how long we're drawing down from the reserves, right? And so our recommended approach is to continue our conservative spending, which means just because something's budgeted doesn't mean it gets spent. And that thought is infiltrated throughout the organization. When we do have vacancies, we don't automatically go out to HR and to the market to recruit for positions, but rather we take the time to really think about, okay, can we be doing this different? Can we be doing this better? Can we rethink how this is organized? So through that and through other measures, you know, we want to keep our expenditures low. Now, as you know, there are a lot of unknowns on the revenue side, you know, so we don't know what's going to end up in some of those buildings. We, you know, have unknowns as far as whether we'll have and when we'll have certain hotels and potentially auto dealers. So there are potentials in the future that we have to keep our eye on. And so back to your specific thing on a hiring freeze, I wouldn't, and even consistent with our guiding principles related to employees and compensation, to ever recommend a strict hiring freeze, because it's not applicable to every department, you know, and so we want to take a departmental sort of approach, you know, as we look at these sort of things. And so we plan to continue to come back monthly with budget reports, quarterly actual verbal presentations. In addition to that, we have our mid-cycle budget review. But at any point in time, if any of these things happen, like a mild recession, we will be back recommending specific actions and being very proactive and getting in front of it rather than reactive to the extent possible.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Christina, and I think probably the public does as well. You know, I've learned that they are doing a revenue tax and trying, but as we've polled, it's come out, you know, 4% above. And so things don't look great. And that's why, you know, I am so concerned. I hear, but similar to the conversation earlier that we were having, and I've just been thinking about this. And with the freeze, is there not a way that we could freeze some of the position and codify it in some way? And we could always have exceptions that come back to council, that if we needed to move those. I know, and I realize that puts, you know, a strain and probably worry on the staff, but I am worried. And so that's something that I'm thinking about. And as I look at these different slides, you know, that's kind of what's sitting in the back of my mind is, are there some, I guess, quite frankly, are there some that we could codify are going to be, you know, a freeze? I'm looking at what enhancements, as we're calling it. I mean, well, first, let me just be frank. I mean, we're looking at a $5.7 million deficit this year. Next year, a $6.3 million deficit. So I want to start from there and then just look at the enhancements that we're talking about. Is there anything in there that we could codify as a freeze?
So we're specifically looking at the enhancements, two different slides. So one is general fund and one is non-general fund. The only general fund positions are related to the 2 police officers, 1 in each fiscal year, as well as the staffing for the 3rd fire station.
Okay, so the others are all,
Primarily funded by other funds, or they have a specific revenue source.
Okay, so let's talk about the specific revenue source that, if it's not from the general, so for example, if we're going through this and I'm looking at, some of them you've got here, analysts, there's also a, deputy city attorney. Can you talk about those? Where are those coming from?
So the deputy city attorney is cost neutral. So it's offset by a reduction in contractual services and part-time temporary salaries. So no impact to the general fund.
Okay, great. So we're going to be, that's right. We're going to be not contracting legal services in order.
Not totally true. So we're going to reduce our contractual services. There's always going to be a need to retain specific counsel for specific matters as needs arise. Hopefully they don't arise frequently. And then we will see a reduction in part-time temporary salaries.
Okay, okay. And is there anything else
As far as
looking at something that we could codify?
So each of these positions that are on these 2 slides are recommendations that we have for you, most of them being cost neutral and some of them bringing additional services to the city. So if there's any on there, we can specifically speak to them. Staffing the 3rd fire station, if the council wanted to keep costs down,
for example, reclassify accountant to senior accountant, 50% is coming from the general fund.
So some of these are for retention purposes and sort of based on the work that they're doing.
Okay, so that would be something that that's just reclassifying the position, and you don't think that we could put a hold on that?
I don't recommend that we do, no.
Okay, okay. All right, very good. So then I'm going to move to talking about ED. And I wanted to, oh, sorry, I lost my place over here. Okay, so I want to back up. I have recreation in the budget. So I'd like to see if we could have recreation. I've had a lot of questions about recreation. We know that there is, there's some significant cost recovery that we haven't made back yet since COVID. And I think some of the questions that I have were a concern on us, what we're paying with recreation, and seeing why can't you recover your costs on that. So I would like to give an opportunity for recreation to address that, because what I'm really looking to see is if there's we're at about 80%, I understand. And I'm looking to see if we could get some type of a target that we could move to, and how long we think that would take to move to.
Yeah, so what you're bringing up is what we like to refer to as the general fund's investment in our recreation.
Yes.
And so our goal, council adopted goal for recreation, is to really strike a balance between cost recovery. So having fees, charges for classes and so forth, they recover our costs, but balancing that with community access. And so council's made decisions along the way to subsidize certain programs, youth, scholarships, senior programs. And so with that, we would never get to full cost recovery. Do we want to, in the future, see the subsidy level go down? Yes. We are seeing it as a percentage of the general fund go down over time. And part of that is just going to be getting our YMCA units back up as we continue to recover from COVID.
Okay. And I think it's important to talk.
So your time is up.
Oh, okay. Well, I have more questions.
I understand. Any other questions? Councilmember Borgelli?
Thank you, Mayor. The CRC has solar. It was put on a couple of years ago with, I believe, a battery backup, and it's pretty extensive. How much is that saving in electricity at the CRC? Chris, you may want to come up.
Chris is coming.
Thank you, Councilmember. The battery microgrid is not in place yet because of supply. It's going to be installed in the next few months. So we have solar, but we do not have the microgrid yet, which will help us save more dollars and provide a backup system and power outages. So we will see additional savings there, and we have accounted for that in the budget. I don't know the exact dollar amount we're saving with the solar at the CRC. I can get that because we've assumed it year over year since we've had the solar there for a decade. But it should be, I believe it would be close to probably 100,000 or so in electricity for that site. I can get that number. I don't have the exact number because we haven't looked at it. We've assumed it for many years now.
The reason I'm saying that is if you're looking to put solar on our buildings, that's a significant savings. And then PG&E is supposed to give you a net back at a true up at the end of the year. So solar is a tremendous cost-saving investment within the city like Morgan Hill. I mean, it could affect the bottom line. I know I have solar on my house. I know I have a battery backup, and yeah, it's great in a power outage. My battery from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I set it is when the electricity rates are high. So it offsets my costs tremendously. And at the end of the year, I actually get, a true up. I get money back. My monthly outlet is very small. Now my outlet monthly by about 90%. So electrification, solar and battery on our buildings, I think would be a great investment to our bottom line budget, because electricity is going up every darn year, and it's a big hit to every business. So you might want to try and get that number that you're talking about and give it to Mr. Dat so he can plug that in.
Well, we'll be coming to you next week with a project that identifies savings for the additional solar on many facilities across the city. So you'll see those numbers presented.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of my questions.
Very good.
Mayor.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I've got a couple of questions about this. So, and it won't go into it because I know we're going to be talking about it next week. But one of the things I'm going to want to know about is the investment side, saving side, and how long it's going to take for us to recover our investment. And that'll be obviously something we're going to want to.
We will definitely share that.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. There was some, and that this would be for you. There was some comment about the solar project, the $600,000 savings. You said it was mistakenly shown in the 2025-2026 budget.
Yes, no, not in the budget. We haven't built that in the budget yet.
Okay.
So just the scenarios that we have been seeing.
Got it. Okay.
But
Got it.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. There was a lot of talk about this quarter-cent sales tax. Obviously, this is where the staff is moving as far as a recommendation is concerned. When is that? There's a lot of talk about it. When is this being recommended to the council for consideration to take to the voters?
So first, we're going to have to find out how the California Business Roundtable, if that's going to be on the agenda in November, and how that might affect what type of measure that we might bring forward. We're not making a recommendation at this point to move forward with a quarter-cent sales tax, right?
Okay.
So what we do know is that we would like to have a revenue measure, but the next step is really to probably beginning of next year, start to have the conversations with the council, perhaps even at the February goal setting, for that to talk about what the revenue measures out there are, what the different kinds are, what the thresholds are, that sort of thing. And then all sorts of community engagement should be done. Not all cities do, but you typically do polling to see how things poll, and maybe even do a follow-up poll, and that stuff takes time. And we would be looking, of course, no sooner than November of 2026.
Got it. Okay. along with so many others that'll be on the ballot then too. Okay. That's it for my questions. I'm going to go ahead and move to public comment.
Break first.
Um,
Go for over 2 hours.
Take a break. You guys go to taking a 5-minute.
I would like to ask a few more questions if I can.
We're going to go to public comment.
Happy to do that when we do comments, but I would like to ask a few more questions.
When we come back we'll come back for council discussion. We'll give you some time there for that. Of course, no problem. So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break enough. We'll do that and then we'll be back 5 minutes. Thank you. We got our council members back to the dais here. Okay, we're now going to go to public comment. And so do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir. Our first speaker is Maddie Scariot. Maddie, I think the mic is off, so when you go up there, just have to push the button until the red light comes on. Thank you, Dad.
Okay, I'm Maddie Scariot. I am the director of the Poppy Jasper National Film Festival. Thanks for letting me have this moment. I want to talk to you, even though we haven't been applying as long as some other organizations, we have been around since this is our 19th year, and we have helped create a regional film festival. And it's grown and, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read. I need to just stop reading. We have a regional film festival that goes Morgan Hill, San Martin, Gilroy, Hollister, and San Juan Bautista. This year, we had 270 films from 30 countries, and we had over 500 filmmakers attend. Our focus isn't just on the art of film, but it's also on bringing economic vitality into our downtowns. Our screenings are in the downtown so that the filmmakers go to a screening and then shop. And some filmmakers have talked about walking up and down the downtowns for over an hour and going to restaurants and into all the businesses. And the businesses are talking about how they have their best week when Poppy Jasper's in town. I really want to help encourage you to think about option 2 when voting, because that's where we are. And we love this community. We've created a festival that's bigger today than it ever was when we were just in Morgan Hill. We're passionate about what we do. We have over 100 volunteers that put the festival on together. We do 8,000 volunteer hours. This is so important for so many reasons. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maddie. Anyone else?
Our next speaker is Suman Ganapathy.
Come on. 3 minutes.
I have such a terrible reputation for talking, goodness. Hello, I'm here actually on behalf of Cindy, who unfortunately had to leave. I'm talking on behalf of Morgan Hill Open Studios. I've been on the planning committee right from the beginning in my capacity as Library Culture and Arts Commissioner, and also because I love the arts. I'm also here to again say, yes, please do consider Open Studios. Thank you ever so much for helping us last year. And we hope you'll help us again this year. Just as Matty said, the Open Studios is really very important. It also, it's relatively very new. This is our 4th year. And the hope is again to bring vitality to downtown, to Morgan Hill, as a place that really honors and helps its artists, because artists need to live too. It really adds to the culture and atmosphere of our lovely town. And it makes art accessible to everyone who are unable to go to galleries and museums. And art is just hugely important in helping become who we actually are. It's a great vehicle also to promote diversity and inclusion by showcasing artists from different cultural backgrounds, identities, and perspectives of underrepresented artists. This year we have about 41 so far. Sometimes we do get artists even in the late period, so hopefully we'll have more than that. We have artists from all over the world who are currently living in Morgan Hill, some very new ones, very excited about that. I just wanted to come here. I didn't really talk to Cindy and ask her what she wanted to say. But I just wanted to say thank you for last year. Hopefully, we will be saying thank you again for this year, but we really, really hope to grow this program. And just wanted to say, do consider us. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
May I have one more speaker on Zoom? Armando Benavides?
Very good.
Good morning. Good afternoon, City Council. Can you hear me?
You can, please go right ahead.
Yeah, great. Hey, listen, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm glad that I have an opportunity to listen and be able to make some comments. So thank you for allowing that when you vote the last time. I do want to talk about the operating budget. You know, the state has billions of dollars in deficit, and what they're doing, they're cutting. They're not adding to the budget. They're using the reserves. The county has over $200 million that they have to cut, and once again, they're not adding services or what they're doing. They're cutting, and they're using the reserves. Morgan Hill Unified School District has a $15 million deficit, and they're going to be trying to figure out where to cut and how fast to cut, whether it be how long the reserves are going to last and all that. And so one of the so that is a real concern. We're just barely coming out of COVID. The economy has not picked up before pre-COVID levels. We still have high inflation. We have high interest rates. The housing market is moving real slowly. Consumer confidence is dropping. A lot of people are relying on their credit cards not just to make it. So it looks like looking at the future. I agree with Councilman Beltran and Spring that when they question, you know, where do we move? How do we go? So the city of Morgan Hill, interesting enough, they said that in 2024, this year, we're going to spend $207 million. But in the next year after that, it's going to jump up to $254 million. That's a $47 million, approximately $47 million increase in expenditures. And I do, I mean, there is some deferred, I imagine that our city manager, Christine Turner, has a plan, and you know, I appreciate that. But we do have to be very careful. Our most sacred duty is to keep balance that budget, make sure that our revenues stay with our expenditures. And if we're gonna have a tax measure, well, let's have the tax measure before we start allocating expenditures that are going to carry us way above our revenue. So that's really the problem, is that we are looking at adding expenses. It's not a one-time; they're ongoing, and they're adding to the problem. So thank you very much, and I hope it's a difficult situation that we're in, the city's in, but we're not the only city. We're not the only city. The county, state, probably even the federal government is going to have this problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Armando. Stay away from those crap tables.
I have no other hands or speaker cards.
Very good. We'll close the public comment, bring it back for council discussion. And Councilmember Martinez Beltran, I know you have some questions, and this is the running clock, 15 minutes. So depending on where others are wanting to jump in, I may interrupt and let some others ask questions or make some comments, if you're good with that.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
Why don't you go ahead and start?
First, I just want to start with recreation, and I'd like to know how long it would take us to get to 90% recovery. That's what I would like for us to have as a target. I realize that this is, and I agree with you, I think it is an investment in our general fund. I think if we talk about public safety, that recreation is probably a big backbone to that. Making sure that we have places for people to put their positive energy, so that our public safety departments are not so busy. So I think it's very important that we have a robust recreation program if we want to have good public safety. So I'll say that, but I would like to hear about that 90% cost recovery. For economic development, I would like to know how much do we expect to be contributed to the general fund in the next 2 years and 5 years?
Very good. Who is going to take that?
Okay, so first on the recreation question, talking with our Public Services Director, Chris Gioni, earlier today, our desire also is to decrease the general fund subsidy, if you will, for recreation. And it's going to take some time to do that, specifically to get our membership back up for YMCA. So a good period of time would be about 5 years is a general target.
Okay, thank you. Will we have that brought back to us that we could understand at some point that target We're looking at 90%.
Yeah, so each monthly financial report has a chart that measures and shows over time the general subsidy, the subsidy level, yes. And then as far as economic development goes, I think what you've asked is over the next 2 years and 5 years, what do we anticipate economic development to bring in? And we don't have a specific number for you, but what we have, of course, is our sales tax projections, our TOT projections, our property tax projections. And so the increases, albeit not high increases, they are increasing over the years, but it's a combination of many factors. So if we look at sales tax, the increase represents industry sectors. What we're seeing across, we have a consultant HDL who looks at for all agencies, what are auto dealers doing? What are gas prices doing? What is other retail. How are they doing? How is business to business doing? So it's that factor. And then Morgan Hill specific, if there's things that we know have opened, we can put projections in. On the property tax side, we have a growth factor of 6% in the first year. Well, part of that is just the 2% increase. It's statutory. It could fluctuate, but we anticipate at least 2%. Plus, we've factored in some growth in our assessed valuation as these new buildings come online, as we have new residential growth, as there's permits that come on board. And so really, there's not one specific number that we can point to that says ED is bringing in X amount, but it's this combined effort of all of this going on. And of course, economic development is a big part about retaining businesses, expanding businesses that are already existing, as well as adding new businesses.
Okay, that's really helpful. And what was provided here is very helpful and very much appreciated. I would love to see a slide that does have ED that talks about, this is what we're getting for our property tax, 125,000 per 100 square foot building, advanced manufacturing. This is what we're getting for our business to business sales, 65,000 on average for each 100 square foot building. I would like to see that laid out. This is what we anticipate for TOT. This is what we anticipate for sales tax. This is what's coming from downtown sales tax. All of that would be very helpful if we could get it on one slide and understand what is ED's part of this whole role, right? Auto malls, this is what we're getting from the auto malls, but let's get that all on one place, just like we just saw with this, so that we have a good idea. I think that would be incredibly helpful, as we just saw a lot of eye-popping happening with what.
Really?
Should I just get clarification from you? You're asking that from existing businesses, right? Not potential future businesses.
I'm asking for both. We've just got some potential here. They've provided that, but I would like to know, what is ED's portion, their wheelhouse that they're bringing, right? So that we can understand when I can pull a lever and say, hey, chief, let's get some more police officers. And as we go, and now we know where we're at, where we expect that to come from, as we see more businesses. I mean, if I've got 2, 3 more of those Butterfield 5 fill up, I'm going to start saying, when do we where's my next officer? Right.
So projections, looking for some projections.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what I would like to say, to see. And then I'd like to also get a timeline on this deficit in the development fund and how we address that. We've had that and just so that we can understand, like we do understand with recreation, what does that mean and how is that going to continue to impact us as we go forward? And those are the questions that I think I really had.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Spring?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I forgot to ask earlier, Mr. Rubio, who's part of the Morgan Hill Blues Festival, had approached me, and I think I connected him or recommended to connect with Mr. Keone. I kind of expected him to be here tonight, but he's not. Mr. Keone, if you don't mind, was he able to talk to you?
We've connected. I think we're planning to meet we've connected. I have not talked to him in detail, only connected on potentially talking, but I think something happened where he needed to, I'm not sure. We did connect, but we didn't have a sit down.
More to come.
decision.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so the reason I bring it up, apparently they have a fairly, they have a need for some.
Yeah, I know, yeah, there's someone who's held an event at the community center previously that he's connecting with. I did hear that that person was not planning to hold the event this year, but was planning on focusing up for the next year. So that's probably why the immediacy of him connecting with that need kind of went away, potentially. But I don't know. That
I
was,
don't want to speak for him, but I was in touch with him too. I actually talked to him on the phone 2 days ago, so I don't think he went away.
yes, I think I saw the event organizer. He applied for the community funding. And he was informed of the council actions and recommendations. And I saw an email between that event organizer and our staff member today, noting that he wasn't, that event organizer wasn't coming and was going to be applying in the future.
Okay, thank you for the update. On Monday, he said they would be talking tonight too, and I had asked him to get in touch with you, at least to make sure that they understand the process, right?
Yeah, and I know Nicole got in touch with that organizer and had a conversation with them.
Yeah, and so tonight, when it comes to community funding, I don't know if you're the right to answer. Are we just talking about the option 2?
Yeah, so what's built into the budget now, based on the direction from the budget workshop, is option number 2, which existed at the time of budget workshop, with the only changes being to move Villa Miramonte to our ops budget, and then add an additional 15,000.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I assume that's the case, but I want to make sure we're all clear on that. The only add-on request, I don't know how to put it in, but I don't know where the Freedom Fest will end up with their funding needs. I know they're still a bit short. If I'm informed well enough as of tonight, they're still trying to close the gap. But if they're still going to be short, I don't know, 10,000 or so, once we come back in the fall, maybe we can talk and see if we can help close that gap. I mean, there's no bigger event in this city, and I would hate them to have sleepless nights just because of $10,000. When we, if there were a majority of the council were to agree, could help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know how to request that.
Two quick comments. One is typically the cost estimates are higher than actuals, so that would work to their benefit. And then secondly, yes, we can absolutely agendize an item to bring forward additional funding, and especially as it relates to our costs and waiving our costs.
Yeah, so they have not asked me. I bring that up just because we're talking about this event, but it's near and dear to all our hearts, I'm sure. That's one of those key events we have in our community, right? That we just need to help if we can. Okay, thank you. No further comment.
Thank you. And I would say to that, because I'm with you, I think we have those conversations, especially around that particular festival, but I want to make sure that we don't do is open the door then for every other group coming along saying, hey, we fell short too. Can the city help us? We've got to be real specific about, that 1 or 2 type events that we would be looking to help in that shortfall kind of a thing. So, yeah.
I have to tell you, I joined council for the first time in the year 2008. And when we had our Great Recession, as it was referred to, and we were doing layoffs. Okay, it was slim pickings as far as staff. From you that have been here many years, you know that. But what it also did is it really squashed the morale of every team member in the system here, because they didn't know if am I next? Is it my department that's going to get hit? And I was new to city council, but let me tell you, I felt it. And of course, my colleagues at that time also felt it. So I would like to hopefully avoid the words of freezing, hiring, replacing. I know it might come to that, but let's not that fear again in people that have been here many years that felt it back then. Like I said, it was pretty devastating to come on board to a council that was in a mess like that. So let's hope that our projections are on track and we're going to do good and we're not going to have to freeze or lay off. So I just wanted to add that I've been through it with the
I
city.
think, obviously freeze is different than a layoff,
I know, but
but
yes, I know.
can have a similar
We were
impact.
actually doing layoffs at the time,
Yeah.
but it still put the fear, are they going to freeze us? Is this it or who's next? Or so
Okay.
it was pretty devastating times back in 2008 for like a whole year. So
Yeah.
let's see what we can do to keep that positive for our staff members.
Very good. Councilmember Borgioli.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So 2 times in a row tonight, that was a great comment. So thank you so much. That you come to us every month and you give us an update. So when you come to us every month and you give us something, can you also include some things that are positive as well as negative? So what we're looking for is a trend going downward, and then we need to act when we see that. So if you can, give us some great insight like you always do, I think that would be appreciative and help us make, good decisions going forward.
Yes, and hopefully only good news.
Totally agree. Yeah. That was my only comment, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. If there are no other council discussions, I think we could take a motion to approve, then we can do all 5 items in one motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Borgioli, second by Councilmember Spring. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There being none, that passes 5-0. Thank you, council. Next item is future council initiated agenda items. Anybody have anything for a future, Councilmember Martinez Beltran?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to hear an item on how we establish funding for the Historical Society. I'd like for this council to review the city agreement and help set some terms on that.
Very good. You'll submit something in writing to the city manager.
Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? There being none, the time has come to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.